I'm Andre Sikabonyi from Gallery Sikabonyi in Vienna. We're here today in Bratislava, in Slovakia, and we're going to talk to two amazing glass artists. One, Zora Palova, and later on we're going to have a discussion with Stefan Palla. We're going to talk about their glass art, how they got there, their ideas, their inspiration, and the whole thing about glass art. We're going to have a little discussion. So, here we got Zora Palova. I consider her one of the best glass artists right now. She has a wonderful way of working with glass. So Zora, how did you start with glass?
My journey in glass started in 1970 when I went to Prague and I visited the opening of exhibition in Bethlehem Chapel. It was the exhibition of a glass department from Slovak Academy, and this department was led by Václav Ziegler. And I met there Stepan, my husband, and I fell in love not only to Stepan but to glass as well.
Okay.
And I was accepted for the academy, but for sculpture. But then I decided not to go to sculpture, but department, but to glass department. And I started in 1971, studied by Václav Ziegler at the glass department, glass in architecture.
Glass and architecture, fantastic. So what actually, the material glass, I mean, there are a lot of examples here, and what was the material? I mean, I think your basic expression in glass comes actually from you creating the positive mold out of clay. I mean, that's the first steps, no?
Yes, indeed, because I enjoy working with clay. It is amazing because what you make in clay, the same you get in glass, because even with fingerprints, with everything, everything it stays in glass, and it is what attracted me. And not only the glass is fantastic material because the technology is very hard, difficult, but the result is fantastic. You can the glass properties gives you so many opportunity to work with. It's transparent. It's
color. Yeah.
And in color is transparent.
Yeah.
Then it has optical effects like in prism. And the closest to glass is the water from force elements. And it is a reason why my inspiration comes from the water. Water is essential for a human being.
Right.
We need everybody, but its transformation changes. It changes by the color, by the light, the sunshine, rain, by everything. And from the drop, you can get water to widespread oceans, to deep ocean, deep oceans. And it is what fascinated me. And the same it is in glass. From the small glass as a hand size, you can produce huge sculpture in glass. It means and it is my intention to enlarge sculpture, not to make only small scale, but larger, enlarge the work, the sculpture.
I mean, definitely with glass, the bigger it is, the more depth you get, and you can play with the thinning and the thickening, and you get different light properties in one color of glass. That's really fantastic. What really inspires me when I look at your work is just the thought that on the beginning of the journey till you have the glass piece on the end, especially a long, big piece of glass, takes a long time to make. It doesn't happen overnight. Is that it's this physical transformation that, because you're actually working with clay and you're creating the positive piece, how it look on the end. And that's the nice thing, because every step is something where I can see you inside, because so what actually happens while you make that piece out of clay? So, why put that one wave a little bit in this direction? What goes through your mind in those processes?
It is very interesting question because we are completely different with Stepan. Stepan, his idea is obviously first in his mind, in his head, but then he can draw, he makes drawings. But I can see in my head three-dimensionally.
Okay.
It means I see the piece in glass,
Okay.
not only in clay. Then my mind lead me through my hands into the clay or onto the clay, and then I know how to turn, twist, where to put more, about proportions, and it's just a process in my mind, and obviously it comes first to the clay. I see it three-dimensional in my head. I don't need to draw. Sometimes I draw, obviously, I make some drawings, but for me it's very important this touch with clay, working with clay.
Well, it gives the whole thing a very organic touch. I love it that you're together with Stepan, because Stepan expresses his art in a different way than you do. And that's why discussion is going to be very interesting, but the outcome is still this very human aspect. And the mind behind it is just different, which is important. What I find interesting is when I talk to artists, how far your idea evolves and what details do you take a look at that every piece, so to say, takes a next step? You know, is there the evolution of the idea, or you go in depth with one idea and you transform that and then you get a different product? How does that actually work for you?
It's dependent. It's not all the time the same. For example, when I was in England, I used to live very close to the sea.
Oh, wow.
And every day changes. Every day was different picture of the sea I could see. And I couldn't come to the idea how to express. It took me really few years when I figured out how to express the sea, because sea is horizontal, but then I made waves horizontal and then I stand them up.
Right.
And I was surprised what I got, and I was very happy. And it was the first is sea waves are in Corning Museum of Glass.
Right.
And in a color, because the North Sea is characteristic by depth, color, gray, blue-gray.
Right.
Not like Mediterranean Sea. And I made in glass this depth gray color. Okay,
and then with time, I mean, how does this the steps of this whole evolution of the idea? I'm so fascinated about this whole construction that you're motivated, you're inspired. You know, it's like writing a new song. You know, but still you have, you know, either you're a rock or you're a rapper. So you have this kind of ground idea, and then you develop that. So in the details, when you work on the piece, does that change? How far does that change in the details? I mean, this is the fantastic thing that I recognize the details in your pieces.
Yeah, because water is so inspirative. Not only water, but like cliffs, like stone, which belongs to the sea. Then, obviously, this idea I developed. For example, I used the wind on the sea.
Okay.
Can you imagine what's happened on the sea? The surface is completely different.
Right.
It's not so flat, and it has a power, strength, and I would like to express it. And then I developed more and more the idea. I don't know where I come.
Where the idea comes from.
Where I come in the
Divine
future.
inspiration, that's important, yeah. That's actually funny, because when we drove here, I saw on the sign, it says Divine, and it looks like divine. So it's like we're calling to a divine artist. Yeah, that's fantastic. That's one thing when I look at your art pieces, I really find fantastic. Some pieces, when you have in glass, you don't dare to touch. But when I see your pieces, you always want to touch the surface, because there are always, you know, their fingerprints, and it's not always, you know,
hands. Yes.
hands, but there is such a movement even in the details. So sometimes when I look at the piece, it kind of goes around the curve, and I look at the surface and like, wow, you know, you're in a different world, so to speak, with the piece. It's absolutely fantastic.
Maybe because I like the clay I play with. I smooth it, I love it. And with the tool as well, not only by hands. I would like to understand to clay what gives me, what offers me. And it is what is my
that's
intention
beautiful.
to get everything from the clay and to express my ideas first in clay, but I could see it in glass.
I think that's wonderful words to say what can the clay give to you, and that's kind of a communication between you and the clay, so to speak, so to create that what you have in your heart and your mind. And I like the idea because you speak of nature and you express nature in art. And for me, art is such a fantastic thing because it's such a creative process. But art comes from the word artificial. So actually, but it derives its idea from nature, you know, because nature kind of derives itself from itself, you know, but art is derived from a human being, you know. So this artificiality, this transformation that goes on is, I think, after all that between somebody looking at the piece and the creator is this subtle type of communication that goes on. And this is the fantastic thing about your pieces, I feel, just this wonderful expression of nature. Can I ask you a question? Just you were in England. You were a professor in England. I understood.
Yes, in 1995, I was on the interview for the post of professor in glass at the Academy of not Academy University of Sunderland in
wonderful!
the UK.
Yeah.
And I was accepted. And since January 96, I have been there till August 2003.
Oh, fantastic! Yes.
And it was a very good experience for me because on one hand it was very difficult and hard. My English was even worse than it is now.
Oh, go on.
And my husband didn't want to stay in England.
Okay.
Then I was traveling a lot between Bratislava and Sunderland. And but on the other hand, it was challenging.
Okay.
It was great time for me, and it was even fantastic work with the students, with young generation.
How do you tell young people about creativity? I think this is
hands.
But with hands,
With
isn't
hands.
it? This is like the emotion, the thought
Everything,
has to come through the hands. If you can't use your hands, don't try.
And obviously it was already there one studio for glassmaking.
Okay.
But casting, they made just hand size.
Oh, small pieces, right.
Small pieces. Then when I came, I got one project to build up a new studio with a huge kiln and all equipment for grinding and polishing and so on. Then we enlarged size with students as well.
Oh, fantastic, right.
Then I think, and I'm very proud of some of them because I've seen in Neues Glas, New Glass, what is the magazine, word magazine for glass. And I have seen my students, my previous student, former students.
You're proud that they're
yes,
there.
Yeah.
Actually, in the process of making glass, did you ever have a situation where you said, I have this idea, but it's impossible to make? Or in the process of making, it just didn't work out? Was there ever a process where you actually...
it is in symbiose.
In symbiose. So you adapt also in the process?
I said also to students, everything is possible. Don't have an attitude that it is impossible to make.
Okay.
No, opposite, vice versa. Everything is possible to do, only you have to know how to do.
That's a philosophy of life. You can really say that's a philosophy of life. You can do anything, you just have to know how. Okay. I think that's something wonderful.
And especially it is in glass.
Right.
And I come to our previous discussion. You asked about computer.
Right.
Yes, maybe I don't. My work is not as appropriate for computer. Maybe I don't know, because the technology goes so fast on. Then who knows? Maybe in 2-3 years it would be possible to make the same sculpture in glass by computer. Why not?
This is a wonderful, interesting discussion, and we had that a little bit before. We had Stepan too. Maybe we will reiterate that together again. But I know the computers are growing so fast. I read some books, and artificial intelligence and these algorithms was random, and they can do things. It's not continuous. It is still, in a way, a reproduction. Okay, and this is what I want to get across, is that if you look at your objects, or that is this transformation that has to go through hands.
And it's original.
It's original.
Because it's a lost mode.
It's a lot. That's what. Yeah, this is something very important to say. The clay model is made, everything by hand.
Yes,
and then it's
mode and
it's
destroyed.
gone. It's destroyed. So
yes.
it's like the thing. But also the whole idea is, when I think the human being in his creativity has this amazing talent of incorporating things that suddenly happen with the clay, because maybe that looks nice, and you work out of that. I don't know if this individuality and this creativity process and the perfection of the details, is that what you can see in a piece that's made by artificial art? But as you said, things go so fast, you look at the last 10 years, it's amazing.
Anyway, yeah. I think human being is behind each program, each computer.
Absolutely right.
It means if you have an idea, why not use a computer as a tool? It is just a tool.
I'm not an
me.
expert. There are so many programs that work on random, but still there is an idea behind whatever the product should be. And there's always in the human being, like you said, comes a divine inspiration where you go a little bit further, and you develop the piece. And I think that's really the interesting thing. That's why I love established artists like you and Stepan are, because you can look at the history of the work and you can see how the idea evolved. And if I look at the ballet dancer from your exhibition, that was like 2019, I think, or 18, right? And it's in principle also a little bit the wave idea, but reduced into a ballet dancer, an absolutely magnificent pace. Yeah, Zora, something that fascinates me about the whole evolution and development of the Central European glass. The Czechs were very important. And you said your professor was Václav Cikla. How is that different to the Czech glass? How did that develop in a different way? How do you see that today?
In Czech Republic, it was different situation. It was the tradition of glass maybe longer than compared to Slovakia. And we have been one republic, Czechoslovakia.
Right.
It means it was not needs to have two schools or two not high school, academy,
yes,
or departments of glass. But then after years, it was a need, it comes out a need to build up or to found out a new department in Slovakia.
Okay.
And it was in 1965, and Václav Cikla was a leader of Department of Glass in Architecture in Bratislava. And his approach was different compared to Prague schools, because Prague school was more academic.
Okay.
But he brought a new way, or new way in thinking, to new philosophy to glass. Mm-hmm. And he was like innovator in teaching.
Innovator
in teaching. And he brought minimalism, what was popular in West countries. he brought with him to Bratislava, and it was something completely new.
Yeah.
And
What time was this? About 68?
65,
Five?
he came, he
okay.
found it out, he started. And I was there since 71.
Okay.
Stepan started earlier, I think in 69.
Okay. So you were right on the beginning. You saw the whole development and the thing. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
It was very interesting for us, and for me it was brand new, everything. I even didn't, when I was at this exhibition in Prague,
yeah.
I was so surprised, so fascinating what you could create
Yes.
from glass.
He was
Not only windows or
Right.
tableware, but sculptures, installations as
Yes.
well.
But he was also very reduced. He was very early with his reduction and so on and so forth. But you developed out of that because I think you have a wonderful harmony in your piece. Stepan is probably more the constructed, more mathematical, and it's a wonderful balance between both of you, between the...
It's closer to him, yes.
Right, yes.
I started with optical glass, but
Oh, really?
I
Okay.
was not as patient as Stepan, because you need to spend time, and if you have like 2-3 pieces, grind and polish together to even shape, it was not for me.
When I studied, I had to polish, because I'm a geologist, I had to polish stones, and that's nowhere as high grade as you have to do. And it was just like, it's people should actually see the work. Then there's a different appreciation also for what you have to do manually. This transformation.
Yeah, we started together with Stepan. Stepan built up a studio for us.
Okay.
And we started with grinding, polishing. We have had flatbeds and vertical wheels for
Right.
grinding glass. But I was not satisfied with, because we could just buy bits of glass, optical glass,
Right.
or colored glass, and cut it by saw and grind and polish.
Right.
But in 1987 or 8, we bought a first kiln.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
it was fantastic for me.
That's when the cooking process starts. You could make your own thing.
Because it gives me more freedom
Oh, yeah.
in creation. Because
I'm sure.
I couldn't make it just minimalistic something or
Yeah.
some waves in glass by grinding, but I could make something with my hands in clay,
Right.
and then just cook
That's why it's actually, yes.
in a oven, in kiln.
Right.
And
There's
it completely changes my creation.
also there is definitely a lot of things you have to know about the chemistry of the glass, something we have to understand that it's a chemical physical process that's actually happening in the oven, and you have to know what's happening because a lot of pieces just don't work out. Are those things that change with time because you know the glass so well that hardly anything breaks, or you still have a piece that comes out and you're, oh man.
Stepan's helped me a lot, because he was a student on a high school for glass in Kamenický Šenov.
Oh, okay.
It means he spent 4 years on a high school for glass.
Okay.
And then he came to Bratislava to study to Ziegler.
Oh, okay, wow.
Then he knew about the glass. He used to work in glassworks
Oh, wow, okay.
for 1 year
Yeah.
as a technologist.
Yeah.
Then he knows about glass everything.
Oh,
And
fantastic.
he taught me how to work with glass. And
Zora, we were talking about your fantastic pieces. There are many big museums all over the world that deal with contemporary art, glass art especially. Is there one exceptional piece for you that you made?
for me, maybe is one very specific and probably significant piece for myself, for my creation. It is the piece which is in Corning Museum of Glass.
Okay.
It was the first piece where I figured out how to express the sea in glass. And because I was for quite a long time, I used to live very close to the sea, then the North Sea has a specific color.
Okay.
It's very dark, dark gray, dark blue, and I think I made this in this piece, which is now there.
Oh wow, fantastic. Beautiful piece, awesome piece.
Thank you.
Was that actually the beginning for you to express the waves, or you had that idea before?
I've had an idea, but if you look to my previous work, there I made some waves like a wing, like
Okay.
a wing of the bird. There I used these waves, but it was the first time where I make these monumental big waves.
Oh yes, your big pieces are absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
It is my intention to make bigger, larger scale, enlarge the pieces,
Yeah.
to become more sculptural.
Does the size actually magnify the details you make?
I think as bigger as more monumental piece is,
Okay.
in my mind.
Yeah. I mean, I find as a gallerist, I think the bigger the piece, I think there is more, can I say more expression? I think there's more depth. Because I think a sculpture always lives off the, especially glass, light, shadow, the depth is thin. So you get a lot more out of that aspect the bigger the piece is.
Yes, you're right.
Yes, I really, it fascinates me, and I love your wave pieces. I wish I had more in my gallery. So I think we're going to have one or two. Next question I have is the evolution. What's going to happen in the next 10 years with glass art? With your art, let's start with your art. In the next 10 years, what you see happening?
I don't know what would be tomorrow.
No,
in
nobody
10
does.
years.
Well, I'll ask you that afterwards. What's going to happen tomorrow?
I don't know, but I think, like in any kind of art, this development couldn't be stopped.
Right.
And glass is specific and is lucky because as an art medium, it has been used only for 70, 80 years.
Right, it's very young, yes.
If you compare to bronze,
Yeah, or even paintings. I mean,
paintings, everything.
absolutely, yes.
Then on one hand we are lucky, but on the other hand, everybody perceives glass as a tableware or windows, but and like a craftsmanship,
Right.
not like an art. And my vision is if glass becomes in the future as any kind of material, art material medium,
Right.
perceived as an art medium, as a fine art. It is my dream.
I think that's such an important point. As a glass lover or any collector, I think they only see the artist and the art within the piece. Yeah. Also, glass is so unforgiving. You know, if it's broken, it's broken. That's done in the process. You have to know what you're doing, and the expression has to be authentic. And I think that in the last 15 years, I really do think it is in the fine arts, and there are so many museums opening up with a contemporary glass art. So I as the value also will serve as the secondary market gets improves and everything, and the attention is there, and the information people can go see the fantastic pieces. I think people will get a lot more the appreciation of the value and of the artistic value. I'm talking about the value, the monetary value is definitely there and will grow. I always say people, you can start now, have the best artists that are known worldwide, and actually it's not that much money if you want to introduce yourself to this form of art. And it's definitely, I think it's just a progressive line, because we're just, right, this is 70 years in art is a very short time.
It's very short time.
And longer future, do you see is the glass type going to change, or the approach is going to
I
be
think
changed?
so, because young people, they don't have patience. And they are sitting in front of computer, they don't have time to spend in the studio.
Right.
Then I think it would be very difficult to find out some artist who will create in glass in the same way like we are. We spend our time, Saturdays, Sundays, holidays, doesn't matter.
Right.
Any day when we want to be here and to work here, then we work. Then I mean, the attitude and approach to glass would be different. Because young people, they have got different problems, different things around them.
Right.
Then they would express themselves in different way. In glass as well, not only in glass,
Right.
in any kind of art.
Yes. What would be? You said you were you went to China a
Yes.
couple of years ago. What was your experience seeing the development in Asia?
Wow.
Oh, wow! Oh, yes, you took it to another level. Yes.
I have been in one judgment for students' work.
Mm-hmm.
There are, I don't know how many, maybe 12 or 20 universities which provides glass departments.
Wow! Wow!
It's amazing.
Yes.
And they have got completely different, they are different equipped
Okay.
compared to our universities.
Right.
Then we have seen such amazing pieces made at the university
Okay.
by students.
Yes.
I was very surprised.
Oh, wow.
I think there is potential, big potential.
Right. I always say art and education go hand in hand. If you don't have the, how can art be appreciated if you don't have the education, the knowledge about the piece? And I think that's why I see you as so important. You've taught so many people and you give them enough information to take the next steps.
I think it is very important to have good education.
Right.
And when I was there 7.5 years, and I felt that's enough, I have to stop.
Okay.
No one could believe that I will do it because it is like definite. You have got salary every month.
Oh,
and it's
wow.
definitely for-
Unusual, no?
until to your pension,
Pension, yes.
you could be there. But I felt that's enough. I need to change something in my life to spend more time for my own creation,
Right.
for myself.
Yes.
Then I stopped. I gave up and
You went back to your
back to
creativity.
our studio.
Okay.
To mention that it is this education must be refreshed all the time. If
Right.
somebody is sitting there for many years, maybe could bring something, but needs to be refreshed. Education or persons in education system.
I totally agree. I think the human being is challenged always by maybe doing something a little bit different. I think that's such an essential part of creativity. Either you come to a hurdle, you don't know how to handle it, you have to find another way around it, or this whole thing. But I think for the viewer, it's important to have knowledge, understand it, educate everybody out there, so the art becomes more tangible, more, it becomes more understandable for the viewer. It always fascinates me because you're a subject, you create an object, whereby you create another subject creates a certain type of objectivity, and that's all. This communication line has to exist, and I think we're trying to do this right now.
It is like dialogue between an artist and a public. And when I create, obviously I don't think what would say then.
What the other people think, yes, right.
But obviously I have got a question to them.
Okay.
It is when I would like to say something.
Okay.
And it is the reason why then it is like a dialogue between me and other people.
Yes,
I would like.
Yes,
it's
I mean,
happened.
I think definitely glass art does that. I mean, just the way it changes in light is already so much.
Because glass itself is fantastic material.
Yes, it is, yes. Wonderful. Thank you, Zora. Fantastic talking to
very
you.
much.
And we'll continue then later on with Stepan Pala.